Welcome to the Daily Fantasy Flex Podcast, the NFL edition. I am your host, Bryan Mears. It is NFL Week 3. We've had a couple interesting weeks, some notable injuries, some probably tilting things if you had Jordy Nelson rostered or probably a lot of different players were tilting this past weekend. But happy to be back in Week 3. As always, I'm joined by fellow Labs guys, Peter Jennings, a.k.a. CSU Ram 88, Matthew Freedman, the editor-in-chief of FantasyLabs. And this week's special guest, although he's a friend of the pod, been on before, Sean Koerner. He's the Director of Predictive Analytics for Stats. And Sean, I don't know if you knew this, but I was just going back over some of our pods from last year. The day that you guys recorded was Election Day, so that was fun. So maybe tonight you can go better for us.
Let's not bring that back up again, please.
But Sean, how you doing? Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm doing well.
Cool. Yeah. So we're going to jump right into this, and I have a couple questions for Sean, and then we're going to get into our regular segment of the show here. All right. So Sean, you work a lot in making projections. So I know you discussed this a little bit last time you were on, but I'd love to hit on it again. I'd love to just hear about your projection process, including what that look like, what that looks like throughout the week, and all that stuff.
Sure. Yeah. So I mean, NFL, we have all week to analyze the previous week, look at numbers. So usually Monday, I do my first pass, and it's usually pretty rudimentary. More just tweaking things and setting up for the upcoming week. And then Tuesday today is actually my Charles Clay veteran day off to rest my old body and get ready for the week. And then usually on Wednesday, we start to get the data from the previous week, and then I really start to go in and start crunching numbers. And then, throughout the week, we're going to get updates, whether it's practice or injuries. So I'm constantly tweaking, usually starting on Wednesday. And then I usually put out my tiered article every Wednesday. That's mostly geared towards season long. And then Friday and Saturday, I'm going in and, really finalizing the projections for DFS purposes.
Some follow-up questions I have for you is, after 2 weeks now, there's been some surprises, whether it's a team or player. I'm just curious where your projections been off so far, and what sort of adjustments are you making? How are you dealing with those?
Yeah, so I don't like to overreact to them being off. I assume there's going to be a ton of variance, largely from touchdowns. So I do a good job of not overreacting too much. But when it comes to backfields like Chicago or Philadelphia, those are situations that I have to update my priors, almost immediately, because those are situations that you can't ignore. So when it comes to a volume standpoint, I tend to adjust things more quickly on that front. But a lot of the guys that we'll touch on a bit later that blew up weeks 1 and 2, I don't like to overreact and start giving them too much credit because, like I said, touchdowns, are pretty volatile. So I especially after the first 2 weeks, I'm doing a very cautious analysis on who to exactly adjust. And it's usually just playing time at this point.
Interesting. What about guys that just clearly are, I don't know, hitting the end of their aging curve, whether it's a Carson Palmer or someone like that? Are you quick to sort of, okay, maybe this season I need to temper expectations?
Yes and no. I mean, he's dealing with a bunch of injuries. He doesn't have David Johnson, so we kind of didn't know how that offense would look this week. So I actually had him pretty high, not based on his talent, but just on a huge amount of touchdown shares being opened up for the passing game. So I had a lot of him and a lot of Fitzgerald, unfortunately. I had J.J. Nelson in my optimal, but I decided not to roll him and Fitz. So my projections have been great. Just my decision-making has been pretty weak for the start of the season.
Yeah, that's always the struggle, huh?
Yeah, but, I mean, you have a guy like Ben Watson who's 36 coming off major surgery and a 3-way tight end committee, and he just went off this week. So there's really no one thing that I'm looking at each week. I still take everything with a grain of salt this early in the season.
That's probably wise. It's definitely a very volatile sport. Appreciate you going over that. Let's get into a segment that we did last week, and I think we're going to roll it back in future pods as well. It's the real or fake segment. So we're going to go around the panel here, and I'm going to ask these guys to give me one real trend that they believe will continue this season and one fake one. It could be based on the first 2 weeks or just week 2. Freeman, I'm going to kick to you first on this one.
Yeah, so for my real trend, I'm going with Chris Carson. Not that I think he's actually a fantastic player, but I think he's better than what they have right now in the backfield in that he's healthy. He's got the big body to be able to handle a full workload. Good size, 218 pounds, decent speed at the combine. He's not agile, but that position doesn't really call for much agility in the way that they use it. They kind of just want him to, finish runs and take what the defense gives him and do the basic things that a sort of run-of-the-mill running back can do, and he can do that without fumbling, apparently. So it seems like he's going to be the guy. So I buy that he's going to be the workhorse there. I don't think he's going to be hugely productive, but I think he'll be productive enough. And one more thing on Carson. Although he didn't really produce at Oklahoma State, he was in a timeshare situation there. He was used heavily as the goal line back, and I'm degenerate enough to go back and look at junior college and think that might actually matter just a little bit. And in his one workhorse season at junior college, he was actually very good enough to be recruited to Georgia and to Oklahoma State and to other big schools like that to be a running back there. So I think he definitely has some potential. Fake Alex Smith. And it's not just that he's been uber efficient with his completion rate and his 12.6 adjusted yards per attempt. It's also the degree to which he's pushing the ball down the field and being aggressive. I think that's going to regress along with his efficiency. I think a lot of the peak performance that we've seen up to this point has been the result of Kareem Hunt and Tyreek Hill. I don't buy Alex Smith. I think he's a slightly better version of Alex Smith than we've seen in years past, but not like a prototypical sort of like Aaron Rodgers-esque type of passer.
Peter, give me a real or fake trend.
I think Freedman hit on some good points there. So one thing that's real for sure looks to be Kareem Hunt. If you, we all kind of knew that coming in, but it's been solidified through the first 2 games of the season. I think that he benefits from playing in a situation where there's options, and saw a really cool stat. Don't actually have it in front of me, but basically he was faster than J.J. Nelson on his touchdown. He got over 20 miles an hour. So the speed and pads and Andy Reid offense has always been very beneficial to the running backs. I think he's going to be a very high-end running back every single week. He's at 8K now. I think he'll kind of stick around that range. I think this is definitely real with Kareem Hunt. The fake, going with my brand here, Crabtree outscoring Cooper margin. Got to call that one out. But another one that I think that people have to kind of understand at this point in time is Le'Veon Bell. At some point, he's going to bounce back and get back to himself. I definitely think his performance so far has been fake. Has a bad matchup against Chicago. I know some people might think that that's a really good matchup. He could exploit it in the passing game, but I think they're more of a funnel defense. I think that Pittsburgh's going to look to pass. Kind of a weird spot, that game, just because Big Ben has bad road splits as well. But Le'Veon Bell at some point here soon is going to regress and be, in my opinion, probably the number 1 running back, especially now that DJ's out for the rest of the season. So I think people are alarmed. I hope his price comes down even more, down from 98 to 8,800. Curious, I guess, Sean's opinion on the real and fake, but also just on Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, so my real guy would be Trevor Simeon. There's a lot of buzz going on with him right now.
Pete loves that.
Yeah,
I definitely love that.
And this is more of a real life. I don't think I'm playing him at all in fantasy this week, but I think he does make Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders great plays week to week, just with his improvement this year in the Mike McCoy system. I mean, those receivers were buzzing about it before the year started, so it's just showing. Now, Simeon's not going to be he scored 4 touchdowns week 1 and then 2 or 3 this week. So I don't think the touchdowns are going to be there every week. But just Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders, they have such a large share in the targets and yards. They're a pretty easy team to peg every week. And, Trevor Simeon's, he's a game manager, but I think he's stepping it up where he can make some plays and, drive the ball down the field. But with their defense, they won't need to throw too much. So that's why I want to caution. When I say real, I don't mean I'm plugging him all my lamps this week. I just mean he is definitely improved enough where he deserves the praise he's getting. And my fake would be Chris Thompson. In the season-long circles, he's the number one waiver wire ad this week. We have a large enough sample size to know he's just a, more of a passing down scat back that can't handle more than 10 touches a game. So I'm hoping he's pretty highly owned this week and doesn't rack off, 7 to 8 receptions. I think people are going to chase those rushing touchdowns a bit this week. So I'm pegging him as my fake guy.
Awesome. And Pete, on your point on Le'Veon Bell, I mean, he did get 31 opportunities, so 27 carries last week against the Vikings. Obviously, didn't break 100 yards, tough matchup, but with that much volume,
Vikings are a good D. We know that.
Yeah, but the volume was there. That's the thing that we want to look for moving forward.
Right.
Which is encouraging for sure. So week 3 is really interesting. We do have all those guys, Thompson and Carson and Perrine and all these guys who. Even Derrick Henry sort of surprising people with the amount of opportunities that they're getting. So it'll be interesting to talk through all of these guys. And week 3 really notable. I mean, we have the London game on Sunday morning, and then just the games themselves are particularly interesting. We have 10 home dogs, which just seems like a lot. I don't know. And a lot of them are like really close dogs, like 2 or 3 points. So it seems like it's always a volatile sport, but it seems to be that there could be some interesting things that happen this week. All right, let's get into our regular segments of the show. First things first, we'll talk about the chalk. When you're making lineups this week, who are the first players you're tending to lock in, and who are the chalky plays you're fine with being in your cash game core? Sean, I'll kick to you first on this one. I know it's early. We're recording this on Tuesday. We're sort of like going through prices. I know you had your old man day off, but who are some interesting guys, with their price points and matchups and stuff like that you think are interesting cash game plays early in the week?
Yeah, so like you hit the nail on the head. This is an odd week. We have a bunch of home underdogs. There isn't really any great matchups. I think a lot of people are going to gravitate to the Falcons-Lions game and the Raiders-Redskins game, but it's just an odd week. So right now I'm not loving anybody. I think the DK pricing is just leading me to guys. And I think the first guy is C.J. Anderson. He's just a little too cheap with the way he's playing right now. So I think he's going to be very chalky. So I have C.J. Anderson, as a free square right now. And then at QB, I think Aaron Rodgers sticks out, or Matthew Stafford, depending on which route you want to go with the rest of your roster. And then I'm really worried about Devontae Adams. If Jordy and or Cobb miss this week, it's going to be hard to not have Devontae, everywhere. Right. And I don't want to do that. But so I'm hoping Jordy and Cobb can play to, not have, a couple of free squares right off the bat. But, even right now with Jordy and Cobb playing, I'm still getting Adams almost reaching my optimals. And then tight end, I think, Zach Ertz just seems like the trusty guy right now that's a little underpriced in a matchup against the Giants where, the way to attack him is via the tight end. So that's where I'm looking now, but there's a lot of potential injuries that can shake up this slate real quick.
Matt, agree, disagree? Anyone that you want to add that you see could be potentially pretty chalky once Sunday rolls around?
Yeah, I'm right there on Ertz. Also, Ebron, who is so cheap, he gets that Monday Night Football discount with it not being factored into the salaries. So I could see some people going with Ebron there. One guy who's interesting to me, and I don't know if this is necessarily for cash, but Martavis is just so cheap on both sides. He's a wide receiver 26. Again, that seems risky for cash, but it seems like it's very tempting to me because he's just incredibly cheap there. Ajayi at the Jets is catching my eye. He gets so many carries. We really saw the team rely on him last week, and that defense, the Jets defense, I know they're supposed to be good against the run, but just because their offense is so bad, I think that it makes the defense a little more vulnerable, and they give up a lot of action to the running backs. So I would be happy to get Ajayi. And then I agree Stafford is someone there. And then also I think some people might look at Cam Newton given the matchup. He's at home going against the Saints, who are not good in any facet. But it's risky with Newton just because he doesn't have the mobility. He doesn't have Greg Olsen anymore. So I'll be curious to see what the buzz is with Newton around the industry as the week progresses.
I mean, he's really interesting at 6'6" on DK. And I mean, the guys that have gone against New Orleans the last couple of weeks, and Stafford and Brady have been like the highest scoring fantasy quarterbacks, and we get Cam at a discount. I know he's been struggling. Pete, what are your thoughts on Cam and other just chalk guys?
I mean, at quarterback, I think there's some options I like better. I definitely like taking guys from that game, though, especially on the Carolina side. This is one of the tougher pricing that I've seen in a while. It's very, very tight cap right now. Christian McCaffrey, I mean, Cam missed him with a wide open touchdown. And I think the narrative would be a little bit different about him going into this matchup if he would have got that touchdown. He was literally wide open, and Cam just missed him from like 7 yards away. Going against New Orleans at home with Olsen out, I imagine the game plan is going to be to continue to give Christian McCaffrey touches. He's had 7 and 5 targets in the first 2 games. Looks like he's probably going to get, around 10 carries a game too. So that's a pretty big opportunity against a pitiful defense, and obviously he's an explosive player. So it's hard to say that he's straight chalk and like he's going to be the cash game guy, but it's tough. I mean, Ty Montgomery, I imagine, will be pretty owned even in this spot against Cincinnati at home, especially if there's some injuries. I think he'll be relied on even more. Obviously coming off a really big game, I think people will have recency bias. I'm not sure if he's a guy that I want to plug in no matter what here against Cincinnati, but I like this type of player on DraftKings, especially at 6,900, given that there's not that much value. I'm with Sean on C.J. Anderson. He was kind of the first guy that I looked at. He stood out to me. This Patriots team, you'd love to take some guys here, but it's hard. I mean, the Patriots literally are getting all those running backs involved. Gronkowski, I think, is going to be fine, but what's going to happen with Amendola? Is Hogan a play? I mean, he's certainly a little risky here. So it's kind of one of those weeks where I don't think there's a ton of like uber chalk, really. I think this week's kind of more wide open, and there's a lot of decisions to be made, more so than the previous 2 weeks.
Okay, so our next segment is the chalky fades and leverage and pivot plays. And so maybe this is the conversation we have is, are there players that are going to be so chalky that we even want to pivot away from them? And like, how do you deal with pivot plays if there's no like definable guy? So Matt, I'll kick it to you first on this one. And I mean, yeah, like how do we play this week? I agree that C.J. Anderson, like some of these guys that, that we know that's just a little bit too cheap, and maybe they see inflated ownership over the week as people talk about them. What are we doing with these guys?
Well, so I like Gillislee as a potential pivot on C.J. Anderson, and I talked with Levitan last night during Monday Night Football, and he doesn't even think that Anderson will have super elevated ownership, and in part it's just because of the elevation in salary. And then also he's kind of in between. He's not a pay-up guy, but he's not really a cheap guy, so he can maybe have reduced ownership because of roster construction. But I do like C.J. Anderson. But Gillislee, I think, is the pivot on Anderson if you wanted to go away, because he is a big home favorite. It's questionable what they're going to do in the passing game. We know he's locked in as the goal line back. At quarterback, I would be fine going underweight on Brady just because of all the questions at receiver, and pivoting towards someone like Kirk Cousins, who hasn't looked great, but he's in a shootout game. He's at home. I think his position there is actually pretty decent. And then I like Mike Evans. I think he was under-owned last week relative to other guys of his caliber, and then also his ownership rate last year. I think we're going to see a similar thing again this week going against the Vikings in Minnesota. Antonio Brown didn't have a great game against them, and I think that's going to impact the way that people view Evans this week. And also, different slate, but Brown didn't have high ownership last week either, even though he was at home as a favorite. That's sort of like the definitive Antonio Brown situation, and he didn't have high ownership. So I think we can sort of translate that a little bit to Evans this week.
Sean, are you my initial reaction, I get that. I love Mike Evans. I want to be buying Winston in this passing game going forward. They're kind of one of my big calls coming into the year, but Xavier Rhodes gives me big concern for Mike Evans. He does pretty well in these bigger receivers, but Evans, he's unguardable down in the red zone if they throw the ball in the right place. We saw that in his touchdown. So I guess, Sean, what are your thoughts on Evans?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm still a little undecided on him. If I decide to not go with him, I might look at Deshaun Jackson if I'm going to go there. But I usually end up rolling out Mike Evans. I just love that Winston doesn't care if he's double teamed or they try to stop him. He's going to throw him the ball. So Evans is kind of matchup proof. And if he's going to be at low ownership, he's a guy that you'll want exposure to because you just never know. The guy is so good that, anytime you can get him as a contrarian play, I just go for it. The one guy at receiver that I'm looking at as a contrarian play that, he's around Emmanuel Sanders and Devontae Adams' price, who I think might be highly owned after last week, is Demaryius Thomas. I think he might be overlooked this week. The Broncos, they've thrown passing touchdowns to Benny Fowler and Emmanuel Sanders this year. So I think it's Demaryius Thomas's turn. He's a little too cheap right now just based on the first 2 weeks. So I'm looking at him as a really good pivot play at wide receiver.
Yeah, I love DT. I think people are being biased towards the Emmanuel Sanders 2-touchdown game rather than looking at him. J.J. Nelson, someone that we didn't hit on really that much, who I expect to be chalk. At some point, Pierre Garçon is going to start going off for the San Francisco offense. First week, he had 10 targets, 81 yards, didn't really have a big game. Then he goes into Seattle, which is like one of the worst spots to play in. So when you just look at his production, I think people are going to kind of get worried about playing Pierre Garçon. But now at home here, I think it's a pretty good spot. Obviously, it's a division matchup, so I don't expect a ton of scoring. But I imagine at the same price as J.J. Nelson, Pierre Garçon will probably be only a couple % owned. And I do want to buy him as his price comes down because I think he'll end up being pretty involved in this offense. I think he's going to be getting the lion's share of the targets and should have some big games here at some point.
And one thing just to add on to that, I think the 49ers are playing on Thursday night and the Cardinals are playing on Monday night. So, yeah, normally we don't touch on players who aren't in the main slate, but for people who play all 16 or look to play Monday night, yeah, J.J. Nelson, love J.J. Nelson, and then Garçon, obviously a guy who's getting a lot of volume there, and that should start to turn into more production.
And I'll try to avoid those games. I just have all the games up for the Thursday, Monday slate. So
yeah.
Of all these cheap guys, that all of a sudden got work last week. We're talking like Chris Carson, who Matt profiled. Like Kareem. Jacques Rogers, obviously a tough matchup against Minnesota. He wasn't like a surprise. Chris Thompson. A guy that right there in that price range too. Amir Abdullah going against an Atlanta team we know is not great against the run. He's got almost 17, 18 carries each of the last 2 weeks. Good matchup. Who were our favorites? Like, do any of you guys have strong takes on some of these cheap running backs?
Yeah, I in the Amir Abdullah range, I think after Monday night, people are more aware of him, and I don't know if he's going to be chalky at all, but Isaiah Crowell right in that range, and that just adds a garbage matchup with the Browns and Colts. I'm thinking, he might be overlooked. I hope so, but he's due to have a decent game, and they might actually have a lead and keep running it. So I think he's in a spot where if you're ever going to take Crowell, this would be the week to do it. So
that's true.
I'm definitely looking at him. And then, it's tough pickings in that range. So he would be the guy that I'd be loading up in that range, trying to just catch him on a week where he might be underowned.
The Browns are 1-point favorites on the road in Indianapolis. That's astounding.
Yeah, I was actually waiting. ever since week 1, I was waiting to see what that line was, and I pretty much guessed it would be Browns -1, which is insane.
Yeah, that is very interesting. All right, let's talk about some stacks here. We'll start with some conventional stacks that we're considering, then we'll move to some advanced or contrarian ones that we're looking at. Pete, I'm going to kick to you first on this one.
All right, staying on brand, Derek Carr, Amari Cooper. I'm going to be all in. I know I went down in the props, but I'm not going to give up on this. I mean, Crabtree obviously had an incredible game, got all the red zone looks, and then they really just blew out the Jets with some big runs and some plays where, game flow-wise, it wasn't going to be Amari Cooper. Now we're in a spot here. We saw kind of a shootout with the Redskins last week and the Rams, so I think this is a great spot to load up on the passing game. I've gotten a bunch of crap about, Crabtree and how he's way better and all this stuff, and I get it. He had, 6 catches for 3 touchdowns last week, which is incredible, but give me Amari Cooper when he's cheaper. The only thing that concerns me that's going to make me just even more tilted about this whole narrative, historically, over the last, 15, 16 games, the teams tend to put their best corner on Amari. Teams, football teams respect him the most. So the only concern is that we'll hear that Norman's going to shadow him. But assuming that he kind of splits time on the two guys, I think Amari Cooper's a great play.
Freedman, what are some conventional stats you're looking at for week 3?
Just to follow up on what Pete said there about Cooper and Crabtree, I've had the same thoughts about what they're going to do with Josh Norman. The first 2 weeks, and it's hard to know if that's representative or not, they've pretty much just planted him at left cornerback. And so if they do that, I think, Cooper and Crabtree could both have big games. They're kind of rotating, across from him. But with the conventional stacks, I'm fine with like Ryan and Julio and Rodgers and Montgomery, I think, is interesting going against the Bengals. The Bengals are so bad right now, and their offense can't do anything, and that just funnels a lot of production towards the running backs. If he's able – the problem with Montgomery is that he's not efficient as a runner, but fantastic as a receiver. And if he can continue to get production as a receiver – and overcome the inefficiency with excess volume, which could easily happen against the Bengals, then I think he'd be in a great spot. So I don't mind partnering him with Rodgers. And then I don't think we've mentioned Rivers and Allen yet. I don't mind that as a conventional stack.
Sean, hop in here. What are some conventional stats you're looking at for week 3?
Yeah, so the one I'm afraid that we're all going to have to consider at some point is the Rodgers and Adams. I said, if Nelson or Cobb miss, it's gonna be hard to avoid that. So I'm hoping we don't have to load up on that because I don't want to. But I'm looking at Stafford and Tate. I think with all these matchups, the Lions at home against Falcons in a more up-tempo game, I think that's a pretty safe stack. It'd be nice if he peppers Tate with targets between the 20s and gets some red zone looks, but. I just think Stafford and Tate, just with all the slate, it's kind of an odd slate. They to me anyway, they seem like a safe conventional stack.
Man, no love for Cam Newton and Kelvin Benjamin or maybe Cam and McCaffrey's the stack, or maybe just no Cam. Maybe that just says a lot about Cam, is that we can't even give him some love at 6'6".
Cam hasn't gone off in so long. I mean, it's just, I remember obviously 2 years ago, he was just unreal MVP season, just a fantasy monster, and he just hasn't been good for a long time. You have to go way back for an eruption game from Cam.
Yeah, if you look at his completion rate, just like pull up his game log, it is brutal. Just not very good. So, the question is, does that matter against the Saints? And the answer is, I don't know. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But, 6'6", I'm going to be buying a little bit here. Pete, I'll kick it right back to you. Let's keep on going around the table. Advance or just a contrarian stack? So it could be a QB running back, or it could just be a QB wide receiver, QB tight end that you think might be a little low owned.
This might be crazy, but I think Jay Cutler to Devontae Parker is a really nice stack this week. You could also look to Jarvis Landry, who just gobbled up targets, but some of the throws that Cutler made to Parker looked really, really good. They're really high on him. This is a matchup, too, where I expect them to be able to pass. The only concern is it's on the road. Jay Cutler, at any point in time can just totally go into the DGAF mode, but I think this is a spot where you want to attack through the air, and I think it's a really good spot for Cutler and Parker. And I think most people are going to tend to lean Ajayi in this spot, but yeah, I kind of want to throw up in my mouth bringing that one up, but Devontae Parker is going to have some big games. I saw a lot from him.
Yeah, I appreciate your conviction. All right, Freeman, here's your time just to completely troll Pete and go with your contrarian stack of Crabtree and Carr.
No, I mean, I don't think there's any need to rub it in, and we can save that for the props section of the show. But, building off of what Pete said, yeah, I think Ajayi will be, fairly chalky, and, you can obviously gain some leverage on that with Cutler and some of the receivers. But I also don't mind Ajayi and stacking him with Miami's defense going against that horrible Jets offense. There's a big spread there, and teams that have larger spreads tend to do better on defense, creating more pressure. And so I would be fine with that. I also don't mind I don't mind Gillislee and the Patriots or Anderson and the Broncos if we're looking for running backs and their defenses. And building off of what Sean said, I don't mind Simeon. I still think he's going to have fairly low ownership because people don't want to believe. I'm fine with stacking him with Sanders or Demaryius Thomas.
Sean, who are some advanced or contrarian stacks you're looking at this week?
The more we talk about it, the more it seems like the Panthers are turning into a contrarian stack. It always seems like I'm guilty of this. Yeah. I always come up with a reason not to play guys against the Saints. I always think they're going to be too chalky. But this is another week. We don't have Olsen, so that kind of narrows down the players we need to focus on. So I think a Newton McCaffrey is like an odd QB running back stack where they can feed off each other. Newton and Benjamin's pretty obvious, but Newton and Funchess, if Funchess goes for 3 catches for 20 yards and 2 touchdowns, you can nab a GPP if Newton also gets some rushing stats. So that's one. Another one would be Carr and Jared Cook, just to kind of take advantage of people going Carr, Crabtree, Carr, Cooper. The thing with Carr, it's so funny. He loves throwing to Cooper between the 20s and using his GOAT receivers to get down the field. And then when he gets in the red zone, he looks for Seth Roberts, Clive Wofford. He's the king of the troll touchdown pass. So now that they have an athletic tight end and Cook who's off to a bit of a slow start, this could be a game where he erupts, and it's something that I might not have a lot of exposure to, but I think plugging in some Carr Cook is a pretty advanced contrarian way to attack that game.
A couple other guys that I want to get your thought on. Some of the problem is that some of these wide receivers that you even want to roster, like you don't want to roster the quarterbacks. Is the problem. So Pete, I'm curious your thoughts on Jarvis Landry. Devontae Parker's the guy we want to buy, but Landry caught 13 of his 15 targets last week. That is just absolutely massive volume. He's not super expensive, 6'8" against the Jets. I know that they're probably going to be up and running. But Miami's maybe not that good where they're really going to be up that much. So 15 targets is not at 6'8", it's not something I can just gloss over easily. And then I'm also curious just the group's thought on AJ Green. Green Bay is not like a scary defense. His situation is scary. Cincinnati's the only team this year they've run one play inside the 10-yard line over their last 2 games, and that's the worst mark in the league. So not a great offense, but AJ Green at 2% ownership is a little at least somewhat intriguing, right? Maybe. No. Pete, what are your thoughts on those plays?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think part of the reason Jarvis got so many targets is because of the Chargers corners. Casey Hayward, obviously Brett was out, but Casey Hayward was all over Parker, and he's a guy you don't want to pick on. So I think it just was one of those situations where they wanted to look for Landry. And I expect him to be the target guy. Just the downfield throws, the big plays, I expect to come from Parker. And this is a spot, even though it's on the road, that hopefully the Dolphins can make it happen. AJ Green, I don't mind if you want to stack up that game, basically say, I'm going to take Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, Ty Montgomery, and I expect them to go off. And, basically what you need for them to have just a massive, massive game is for the Bengals to put up some points. So, I don't mind that. I don't mind running it back with Eifert either. It's one of those things. They've been so bad, but like, can they get it going? New offensive coordinator. I don't know. AJ Green's a stud, so if you can get him at a really low ownership, hopefully the Bengals can get it figured out.
Yeah, 8.5 dogs on the road in Green Bay. So, I mean, some of these guys, there's really no good matchups. So finding these contrarian guys at just a couple percent ownership is really interesting here. All right, let's get some bold calls, and then we'll move into the section that everyone's dying to get to, the skill game proposition. All right, Sean, I'm going to kick to you first on the bold calls. Give me one real bold football call and one bold DFS call.
So my real I'm not a bold guy. I'm a pretty chalky guy, but my bold call, if I have to, would be the Jets win outright this week against the Dolphins.
Wow, I like it.
I'm going to double down on that for like a plus 2,000 parlay and say that will be their only win of the season too. So not getting ahead of myself there. But I just think, the Dolphins, they've had an odd start to the season. They're flying back to back-to-back road game across the country. It's just a very easy trap game for someone like the Dolphins. And, before the Jets go into full-on tank mode, this is their chance to win a game, I think. A lot of sharp action seems to be on the Jets money line early on. It opened up 250, I think, and it's just getting hammered, and it's dropped to minus 220 on the Dolphins side. So something's up. I think a lot of sharp money is actually on the Jets. Usually this early in the season, I don't like a mediocre team like the Dolphins being almost a touchdown favorite on the road. I don't care who they're playing. So that's my bold call, is the Jets win outright.
Awesome. I like that. Freedman, give me a couple of bold calls here.
Okay. I'm going to go with and I have no conviction in this at all. Just say that's my, way of wimping out of this. But not that the Bears win, but that they keep it close, that they almost win, that they're within 3 by the end of the game against the Steelers. The Steelers have
that's your bold call, is that they're going to be close?
Yeah. Not that they're going to win.
Call them out, Brian. I like it.
Not that they're going to win. That's too bold. That would be ridiculous. They're not going to win. But they're 7.5 underdogs. Like, I feel like it's enough for me to – All right. The Bears will win. The Bears will win.
Now we're talking.
There's no way the Bears are winning this game. But I do think that they keep it close, like, within a drive. Like, I think there's the possibility where it's like, oh, hey, if Jordan Howard had managed to catch a goal line target, they would have won. So I think it'll be, like, competitive, but that they won't win. But I think the thing is, it's not necessarily even fading the Steelers, but the Steelers have won 2 games in very mediocre style so far. And, they don't look like a team that is really deserving of winning a division championship, but that's sort of like where they're headed right now.
And we know their home road splits too.
Yeah. So I'm gonna kind of fade them here, but yeah, that was weak. I will attempt to do better for next week whenever I bring out the boldness. But I am going to try to make up for it with the DFS call. I think Mike Gillislee gets the hat trick with 3 touchdowns.
Wow. I think they call that the Crabtree, actually, not the hat trick.
Nice. Finger for me. I like it.
Pete, yeah. Let's get some bold calls from Pete. And maybe they can be a little more bold than Freedman over here.
I'm going to die on this one again. I need to watch the game back. I mean, I saw a couple plays. I mean, the Jaguars with the tip passes just obviously got destroyed. I'm still a believer in their defense. I'll take the Jaguars to win at home here against the Ravens, who have looked better than I thought, but I think that they can win a defensive game. The total's already coming down in this game, and hopefully Jaguars can play great defense, not turn it over, and run the football. In terms of a bold DFS call, there's a couple ways that I want to go, but I'm going to go back to Devontae Parker. I do like the call of the Jets somehow winning this game. I mean, it's painful to talk about Jay Cutler, but the one guy I just have a lot of conviction on just with the eye test is Devontae Parker. I'll say he has 2 touchdowns and over 100 yards in this game and is on the Millie Maker winning lineup.
Is the Jags game, is that the one in London, Matt? I know that you were looking at that.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, that's the one in London. So not truly at home.
Yeah.
But although, in
The
all
Jaguars
fairness,
don't, as long as they're not on the road, it's like the home game because they have the worst fans in the NFL. So.
well, right, yeah. In all fairness, they've played in London more than any other franchise. That's
Yep.
basically their second home at this point. Like Bortles has literally played more London games than any other quarterback in NFL history. So that's basically like it might as well be his home game.
That's like his proudest accomplishment.
Levitan has talked about it, and sorry for the blunder there, but Levitan's talked about how the Jaguars have the worst home field advantage.
Oh, for sure.
I was just looking at the Vegas page here, and the Jaguars are someone I want to buy. But, yeah, London can't be that much worse, and maybe it's better. I mean, I like the angle Freedman just brought up. I think at some point the Jaguars are going to continue – or not even continue, but I think the Jaguars are going to show things this year. I really am a big believer in their defense.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So right now, their rush defense is last in DVOA, only 2 games. So I think it might be a nice spot to buy low on their defense.
Yeah, they're a similar team to like the Broncos. They have incredible corners, great pass rush. I think teams want to run against them.
So,
we'll see if that's what Baltimore ends up doing successfly. But they have a lot of talent on that defense. So
yeah,
we'll see.
I think their defense is really good too. All right, let's do it. Let's get into some skill game propositions. Time to put some 6-packs of Coors Light into play. We will offer up some skill game props, and people can elect to take them or not. Freedman, you want to start by throwing out some stuff?
Well, actually,
let's get the recap. Right?
Yeah, first I was going to say,
I want to see how bad I got buried. I mean, I got swept on the 3 donkeys. I mean, I know Cooper Crabtree was not good.
Yeah. I don't have the recap in front of me right now. That's the donkey move from my
amateur.
I don't know.
That's a good save for me because I'm pretty sure I got pounded. So I still the 12-8 is all I know about in week 1.
I do have a page that I tweeted out where I have all the props listed and the updated stuff. So I'll tweet that out again tomorrow, and you guys can go check it out. And then at
Freedman was ready. He thinks he did well, and I see that look on your face.
Well, I don't even remember, but where was I in terms of volume? Do you remember? Because I feel like in volume I was right there.
Yeah, you were coming in. Yeah.
You're coming in, Freedman. Much respect, bud.
Nick was coming in pretty hot too with the volume. Yeah. We had a lot of we had props for like 30-40 minutes last week, which we don't need to go that long again this week, but. We have the
king of props.
This is the show. We have the guy.
Okay. So we do need to go that long. All right, fair enough. All right, fair enough. So who wants to? I guess I'll throw it out to the group. Anyone dying to throw out one before we start?
I'll throw out one everyone can take. Cooper versus Crabtree. It's every week. It's available. I'm going down with it. Who wants to take it? When you get the more expensive DraftKings receiver here, boys.
You're not going to throw us points.
No, not after last week and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah,
I can't be that stupid. He's more.
Sure, you can.
He's more expensive. The guy just went for 32 DraftKings points, 3 touchdowns.
But we all know Cooper is better.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not what my mentions say at all.
But we're not Twitter.
Pete, I'll give you the action just because we have to have 3 weeks in a row with the action.
Yeah, who else? Yeah. Someone else has to jump in.
Well, I mean, I have it very close, but I'll go with Crabtree just to give you some action.
I see it. I mean, trust me. The play when they called that fade, I mean, it was funny to watch the Derek Carr audible it. He yelled Seattle. That was the term he used to audible.
That was awesome.
He throws it just right to Crabtree when Lynch is obviously dying to get in the end zone. So that's definitely, I mean, when they get down to like the 2-3 yard line, they're going to throw a fade up there, just like a little, it's going to be to Crabtree. So I get it.
All right. Hey, Pete, for the rest of the season, we can lock it in. Would you lock in? I take Crabtree with 1.5 points.
I'll give you 1 point the rest of the season.
Okay. Lock it in each week the rest of the season. Okay.
And then, Brian, I'll give you the same since you've been so generous up front. I'll give you a point all season.
Thanks, Pete. All right.
I'm going to ride or die with Amari, and it's going to really burn me potentially.
Hey, you're 1-1.
Yeah, 1-1 so far. We'll see
how it goes. Sean, you got any props you want to get out there?
Yeah, sure. So I will let any of you get to take any 5 quarterbacks. This is for just the main slate, just, not the London game, not the Monday night, not third. Main slate. You get to take any 5 quarterbacks, and I get the field. Best score wins.
Ooh, that's a good prop.
So good. That is so good.
I like that, Sean. I'm going to take it just because it's a good prop.
Oh,
yeah, no, it's fair. It's fair.
All right,
Yeah.
I'll take Brady, Rodgers, Ryan, Carr. Gosh, is it Cam Newton? Golly, Cam Newton.
Might be Stafford. I don't know.
I know. I'm going to go Stafford. I don't trust Cam. But
Yeah.
Brady, Rodgers, Ryan, Carr, Stafford. And I want to hear Sean say who he would take after we all play.
I'm gonna do just the top 5: Brady, Rodgers, Breeze, Ryan, and Carr.
Yeah, I'm gonna do the top 5 except Cam instead of Breeze. I've been believing in Cam on this pod, so I feel like in the name of my brand, I've got to keep on going. Yeah, Sean, who would you take if you were on our side of the prop bet?
Yeah, it would be Rodgers, Brady, Ryan, Newton, and Carr.
So everyone's down on Breeze. That fifth one seems like, because we all took Brady, Rodgers, Ryan, and Carr, and then it was just
it's pretty
matter
easy
of figuring out that fifth.
It's roughly 50-50, and I have Bradford who could turn into Keenum, so it all averages out. It's about a 50-50 chance.
I like that a lot. That's a really, really good prop.
Yeah, it's Trevor Simeon's probably going to win it, so that'll be fun. Freedman, you got any props you want to throw out?
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be my standard. Anyone who wants it all season, Melvin Gordon under 4 yards per carry.
Not going to bite. What did he do last week? I mean, I know
like 1.7 or something like that.
Like 9 for 13.
Like he's not
he
a good player.
Got vultured twice. Did you guys see that? The fullback got the ball.
Yeah.
First and goal.
Oh, I was
shitting my pants.
I almost smashed my phone. I had so much Gordon. That was so.
It was all in. Gordon and Montgomery everywhere. Obviously.
Yeah, I was texting my analyst. I was like, watch them give it to Derek Watt here.
Yeah. They gave it to him not once, but twice.
Oh my god!
And then they had to get it to Gates, of course. Like just the whole.
Yeah.
But can I ask you a question here about Melvin Gordon? If he starts to lose any goal line equity, is he worth? I mean, like, what is he worth? Because he's basically just a goal line guy who can catch passes. But he's not a yardage accumulator. So if he's not getting goal line touches the way that he did last year, like I think that significantly diminishes his upside.
I mean, also if he's only getting 9 carries a game, which I mean he'll get more than that for sure. Yeah, but you're right.
I mean, I think he's still going to get a lot of opportunity. And the thing is that's nice is that passing game value is so big.
Yeah.
Out of the backfield. And I think his pass protection. I'll have to watch the game back and look at some PFF numbers, but I think his pass protection is picking up a little bit, which was a knock coming in out of Wisconsin.
All right. I'll take Mike Gillislee 1.5 touchdowns. I'll take the over.
Oh, smash the under on that.
Yeah, I'll take the under for sure.
Same under.
Good.
Yeah.
All three of y'all.
Yeah.
Freedman's a lot better at giving away a little EV.
I normally
last year was pretty rough, but yeah, you're a lot better now.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
You guys
I want you to take it.
Do you guys have any strong stances of McCaffrey versus CJ Anderson? I'm just trying to throw out some stuff. Like would you take either side of that?
I'd take McCaffrey.
I'll take Anderson.
Yeah, see, I knew we'd probably get different sides of that.
I'll take Anderson on that one.
All right, I'll go against you, Pete. You got McCaffrey versus Anderson 3-way.
All right. 2 Denver guys.
Let's keep on going. Hey, let's get some props on tight ends. That's part of the show that we really haven't hit on yet. That like defenses as well. But I mean, we talked about Ertz and some of these guys that are probably a little too cheap, but we haven't really dove into the tight end spot too much. So we could do that in the form of prop bets if anyone has anything.
Yeah, I want to be over-ish on Jack Doyle, but I still don't really even know what that looks like. You know what I mean?
That was actually my prop. My only tight end prop was Jack Doyle.
Yeah.
So just an over/under if you want that action. 9.5 DK points.
Okay, I'll take the over.
Okay. Booked.
Okay. Yeah, Jack Doyle 3.6. Yeah, that's an interesting price. Anyone else got any tight ends? What are your guys' thoughts? Maybe we get something around Martellus Bennett. I mean, he got so many targets as they were trying to catch back up. 11 targets against the Falcons. Only caught 5 of them, but I mean, let the Packers in targets. And if we think that Jordy or whatever might be out, like we think that Devontae Adams is like the clear cash game play. Is Martellus Bennett the direct pivot from that in GPPs?
We don't like Martellus Bennett. He's trash in fantasy owners and all this stuff. I do like his Captain Crunch rap video, though. He's certainly in play. I mean, let's talk about Kelsey for a second. I mean, Kelsey looks like I got a lot of grief. I did draft him quite a bit in some best ball leagues, and people were kind of knocking Kelsey, and I really thought he was going to be the big beneficiary of Macklin going down. Obviously, Tyreek Hill's the obvious one, but I thought he was going to get more and more opportunity. And you look at a game with 10 targets against Philly, I think he's going to be right there with Gronk all year if Gronk stays healthy as one of the top tight ends. What are you guys' thoughts on him? I mean, there's got to be some prop here, like I take Kelsey and someone versus 3 tight ends, or I don't know. That's one other guy that I think is really interesting this week.
The Chargers have been atrocious over the last couple of games against tight ends. Last in the league in production.
Yeah, I think Kelsey's number 1 right now, but we don't know the situation.
I mean,
I think he can play.
So are you, do you think he's cash viable? I mean, he's 6,000.
I like Ertz quite a bit too, and then you have Ebron, who looks like a really good savings play, and with a tight cap, you probably are going to have to go down at tight end. So those are the kind of first glance guys that I'm looking at, but. Yeah, there's got to be some sort of prop here. Sean, what prop can we make with it's fair with tight ends?
For Kelsey?
Kelsey and someone versus 3 tight ends, or like I take first pick, you guys get next 3 that aren't Gronk, or I don't even know.
Tight end's so tricky right now. You would have to do.
What if I took Kelsey and Ertz? You take any 3 guys outside of Gronk. I mean, who is that?
Basically, Kelsey, and any 2 tight ends not named Gronk. That's a fair prop.
Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah,
I'll do you guys that. And I know Ertz I'll be going up against Ertz a lot, which is fine. I'll take Kelsey versus any 2 tight ends that aren't Gronk.
Okay.
High score, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I'll do Ertz, and man, that's rough.
Yeah, definitely no Jimmy Graham.
Because I'm not really sure about Jordan Reed.
right.
Yeah, him and Graham suck.
I'll do
Tyler Eifert's so bad this year too.
I'll do Ertz and Delaney Walker.
Yeah, Delaney Walker's a nice one.
Yeah.
Tight end is tough because we just have a bazillion questionable guys.
Yeah. I'll do Walker too.
What about Old Man Witten? You guys are loving Old Man. The guy's been going off. It's been going.
Freedman, get Doyle and Ertz.
That's horrible.
How are you guys not taking Witten? The guy's gone for 10 last week. He had 10 catches on 13 targets for a touchdown.
Well, he's on the Monday night.
Yeah, you can use anyone. You can use anybody.
Oh, okay.
Main slate.
Okay.
Unless you guys want to make it all main slate props. I have the Thursday through Monday DraftKings salaries up, so that's kind of why I keep bringing up a lot of those guys.
I'm not on Witten for this. I'll do Walker. I'll do Walker and Ertz. I don't want to avoid. I mean,
The guy is just killing it though, Witten.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it's sustainable either, but he is just. It's been incredible. 22 targets already, 17 catches, 2 touchdowns. I mean, the guy's doing pretty good.
Yeah. Well, it's early in the season. He's a granddad runner, So by week 4, he's gonna be hobbling around. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go Ertz and Martellus Bennett.
Okay, I've got a multi one for running backs. I will take Jay Ajayi and Ty Montgomery. And you can have either Le'Veon or Kareem, and then a running back under 5,400.
Okay, can you also take Zeke Elliott too?
No, main slate.
No.
Sorry, main slate.
Main slate only. Okay. All right. I'll take.
Well, actually, go ahead and take Zeke if you want. That's fine. And he can be in the Le'Veon, Kareem, or Zeke. Like, you can take one of those three.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll go. Man.
Who are we going against? Who are your two guys, Matt?
Ajayi and Ty Montgomery.
That's tough. Yeah, I mean, just getting Bell is pretty nice.
Yeah, I don't know if Bell's that much. I mean, I like Bell going for it. I just don't love this matchup on the road against Chicago. It's just been killer against the run.
Yeah.
I'll take it. I'll go Bell and Crowell.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was the one that was standing out to me too. Abdullah's pretty interesting to me too.
And it's highest, right? We're going for highest, not combined. Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
Highest. Can I take Carlos Hyde? Not a main.
What? How much is he?
5,200.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
All right, I'll take Bell and Hyde.
Yeah. Okay, let's stay off of. I mean, I'll go on the Monday night slate and JJ Nelson. I almost kind of don't care whatever line you set. I want the over. just set a line that's in the neighborhood of something approaching fair, and I'll take the over.
Let Sean set the line.
35 points.
So not 22.5. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair line.
You think go ahead.
About 12.5.
Okay, that's fine.
That would be fair. I won't
Yeah.
shy to 12.5 is fair.
Yeah. I agree. I think that is probably fair. I probably would have even gone 13.5, but 12.5 is fine.
I know you would, but I think 12.5, I would actually take bets on that. So I'll get 12.5.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a tough one. I feel like he's one of those guys that his mean is going to be higher than 12.5, but his median
right.
Kind of right there. I'll take under just for the heck of it. Whatever.
I mean, Sean, because it's small sample, but how much stock do you put into what he's done in games without Michael Floyd, or games without John Brown, or games in which he's had just more than 40% of the snaps? His performance in those games has been unreal.
Yeah, no, if you look at last year, I think it's the last 7 weeks of the season when Floyd was gone and Brown was hurt. He was the number 15 overall wide receiver in fantasy. I think, with someone like him, having that kind of sample helps. I don't look into it too much because, he should see an increase in snaps. Right. I would just be worried about him being somebody that kind of benefits from being overlooked. But when he's clearly the guy, aside from Fitz, that they're going to be targeting, he puts up huge games. So it just gives me the confidence that, even when defenses key in on him and the game plan for him, he could still dominate. So, he's a great play. And the thing is, I said his over-under at 12.5, and Pete's right. He's not going to get 12.5. He's either going to get 20 or 5. So he has a wide range of outcomes. That's why I avoided him in cash last week, and it screwed me over. I just didn't think of him as a cash game play, but he might be.
But see, so I agree with what you're saying, but I do want to push back because I think that 12.5 actually is within the realm, because I think 5 receptions for 75 yards, I think that is feasible, where even if he doesn't have a huge one huge play, or even if he has one good play, 30 or 40 yards, that can be supplemented with other plays that are just mediocre, but that could still get him to 12.5. You're muted.
My bad. So if he gets 12.5, I won't be shocked, but he's kind of a low, a high yards per catch, low target guy that kind of relies on touchdowns, and he just does it. So I think he's going to be a lot more volatile than we think. But
that's fair.
Still, his median projection should be pretty high.
Yeah, that's fair. I guess my assumption is that I think he's going to get more targets than we would expect, but I could be wrong on that. But with
David Johnson out too, it's not even just Smokey and Michael Floyd gone. Yeah, David Johnson is gone. So there's just so many targets available. And Gresham was out last week. He's probably playing this week, but they didn't really have they had Mani Moma or whatever, running passing routes. So Gresham might curb his upside just a little bit. Who knows? But they just have so many available targets right now.
So last 2 weeks, Freedman, AJ Green, 11.7 points, 12.4 points. So it looks like you want an over/under of you want JJ Nelson versus AJ Green this week.
Not really. What I do want is Nelson plus points versus Tyreek. If Pete would give me that.
Plus points?
Yeah. Tyreek is clearly better. He clearly gets more volume.
I'll give you 1.5 points.
Sean, what do you think?
That's fair.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take Nelson.
Perfect. Exactly. Yeah. Come on.
Yeah.
All right. I like
Points.
JJ Nelson. I played him in some cash last week.
I thought you were about to take JJ Nelson against Cooper.
Now we're talking.
Oh. Okay. Hey, how many points will you give me for that?
Set the line. You set the line, Sean.
That's about 2.5 points.
Ooh, I think it's closer to 3.
Up there. Come on, buddy.
I think it's closer to 3, but that's just me.
2.5.
I'll take 2.5 with you. I'll take JJ Nelson plus 2.5.
Yeah, fine. I'll do that.
What can go wrong? I'm all in on Cooper again.
Yeah, I'll do JJ Nelson. Whatever prop bets we can come up with, I'll probably just take JJ Nelson. It's gonna be horrible.
All right, so I have a Le'Veon Bell prop. Kind of going with the range of outcomes here. I'll let you guys pick either way. I'm not setting you guys up or anything, but will Le'Veon Bell score between 14.5 and 26.5 DK points? So he either falls in that bucket or he's outside.
Or he does not.
Yeah.
I say yes.
Yeah, I'm going with yes.
I'll take yes as well.
Okay.
Don, you set some great props though. This is material for the future here. That's really, really good.
Yeah.
Sean,
100% action on the inside the bucket. Wow.
Yeah. Are you?
It's probably the donkey move.
Yeah. If you had to lean on one side of that, are you leaning on the over?
Or not inside the bucket, he means?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I said it 50-50. I think he's either in that or he's out of it. But it looks like I'm rooting for him to either bust or just go off.
Yeah, that can happen here.
Interesting.
I don't think he's actually been in that range all season yet. And, if you look at his game log last year, he was usually out, on the plus side of that range. So I think it's a fair prop. And it just goes to show that, just because Le'Veon Bell struggled the first 2 weeks, it was sort of expected, So this week I think he returns to true form. So, yeah, I could go either way on that. So you guys kind of forced my hand there.
What was the low side on that?
14.5.
14.5, okay.
I did something really stupid and forgot to talk about my boy, Rashard Higgins, fellow Colorado State guy. I will take Higgins versus any receiver 4K and under. So same price or under, you can take anybody. I'll even give you 0.5 point to get you nets. Sean's not a net. He's got it, but gotta get you guys.
Oh man,
this is rough.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with
it's under 4K.
Yeah,
4K. You can be 4K too.
Okay.
And I'm just going off the main slate. I don't have any Monday night guys on my tab here. I will go with my boy Robbie Anderson.
You get a 0.5 point too. Is that reasonable, or should I give more?
No, that's fine. I'll take a 0.5 point.
I'll take Josh Gordon in hopes that he gets unsuspended for the next game. This is pretty rough here. Do we? I'll do Decker.
I was gonna say Decker, Gabriel's there. There's a couple other guys.
I'll do Decker with the 0.5 point.
Okay.
Marquise Goodwin's there. He was like sort of like the surprising shot.
And I'll try to give you guys back some equity. I'll take after you pick Bryan, I'll try to give you guys back some equity.
So this is a little bit off topic. What do we think about Zay Jones, a guy who like dominated air yards for Buffalo? Obviously, like a brutal matchup. So I'm not saying for this week, just like in general. Yeah, this week.
Yeah.
Like it's like moving forward after this.
No.
After this week, maybe, but not this week.
He had like 60% of Buffalo's air yards. So I was working on the market share report that just stood out to me, but I didn't really know. I didn't know much about him.
I like the call, like going forward, and hopefully, he does. I mean, I assume he's not going to do much versus Broncos defense.
Oh yeah, definitely not.
That's a good guy to be kind of on the radar for in the future. How about this?
I'll take Decker against UP before you go on.
Okay, I'll take 3 receivers. I'm going to take Cooper, Parker, and Higgins, and you can have any 3 receivers you want, 5,500 or less. So just no Devontae Adams, but you can have anyone on all these slates. You got J.J. Nelson, you got Macklin, you got Carson. Maybe that's not enough. How about this? I'm trying to figure out some way to give you guys.
Wow.
If I go under 6K, you guys are just going to take like Thomas, Jeffrey, Sanders, and Pryor, and I'm going to get waxed. How about I'll give you 1 out of the 3 can be anyone 6K and under, and then the 2 out of 3 can be anyone 5,500 and under. Is that reasonable, Sean, or am I not being?
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. Just with 5,500 and under, there's such a huge gap. You only have T.Y. Hilton and Brandon Marshall sitting there. But yeah,
I saw J.J. Nelson too, because I have that other.
If he's a part of that, I'll take some of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll give you guys a free square with J.J. Nelson. Freedman can get more leveraged on him. Anyone under 6K too.
So Demaryius Thomas and J.J. Nelson are allowed.
Yeah.
And then I'll throw in T.Y. Hilton.
Okay.
So you go T.Y. Hilton over Pierre Garçon, Sean?
Oh, I don't have the Thursday night game up. I do like T.Y. Hilton in that garbage game, so I'll gladly get some equity in him.
Yeah.
At that price.
Pete, what were the 2 lines again? 1 under 6 and then the rest under 5.5?
I'm just trying to take away because like that 55 to 6K range, you got Thomas, you got Jeffrey, Pryor, Sanders, Martavis, Devontae Adams. I mean, you have like just uber chalk.
Okay, so
we can't take Devontae right now because Jordy's 50-50. So we have to take DT almost.
Let's see. Pete, would you give me Bryant and okay, actually now
if you want to dip down crazy, I'm just trying to get a 3 versus 3 on 3 guys I like.
Sure.
Reasonable.
I'll do
Bryan and someone else and then dip way down on your 3rd receiver. I'm fine with that too.
Okay, I'll do Thomas, I'll do Hilton, and I'll do Nelson.
Okay. Bryan, you want any part of this?
Yeah. I'll do Thomas. I'll go the same one that Sean did, Hilton and JJ.
Okay, I think that's pretty fair.
Yeah, it's probably the best one. Okay. All right. Any other ones? Keep on rolling. Don't want to get too long, but.
I'll get some more Crowell equity. I'll take Crowell, and you get any running back below 5.5K. Main slate only.
Main slate only. Buck Allen, and that's obviously I can't do that anyways.
I would do. I would do probably Crowell versus Gillisley, straight up. If Freeman
he's
wants
too expensive, buddy.
No, I'm saying I would take the Crowell side if Matt wants the Gillisley.
Okay, yes on you. I'll take Gillisley and Gillisley, and for Sean, I'll let
you have Gillisley. I'll let it slide.
Okay, I'll take Gillislee. But
Alright,
I'll give back a little equity here. If you want to run it back, you can take Crow, and I will take Jonathan Stewart on another bet.
Yeah, deal. Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Yep.
Would you have Crow over Gillislee, Sean?
They're about the same.
About the same.
Yeah. Gillislee, obviously, he's going to have to get a touchdown. So is Crowell. But I just think the game flow sets up nice for Crowell. So just trying to get some equity on him at that price.
I'll go Crowell with you, too. I'll short Gillislee. I like the Crowell call. I like him this week.
And
so I'll give it to you. I'll take both the sides of that, Freedman.
Okay. And if you're interested in this is probably a mistake. I know this is a mistake, but it's a sort of hedge life move. I will also take James White against Crowell.
Done.
Yeah, sure.
Done.
Yeah.
I just hemorrhaged equity. I know it, but I think he's going to get
so tilted when you're watching rugby. Get into the end zone or deal.
Matt, if Crowell gets into the end zone, like if he goes for like 15, 20 DK points, you just lost like 12 bets right from in like the last 20 seconds.
I'm going with James Devlin. We need a James Devlin troll dog.
Oh my gosh.
It's gonna happen. The way this season's going.
It's gonna be brutal.
Oh my gosh.
So I have one more unique prop for QBs.
Okay.
It's just an over/under, so I'm not trying to trick anybody. Top main slate quarterback score, 31.5 DK points. When it's all said and done, top score.
31.5. Okay.
Yeah, I'll take the over.
Okay.
I'm gonna take the under. That's a good one. So Brady, just like some. I'm looking at Russia dashboard. Brady was the only one that hit that last week.
Yeah,
in a dream spot. Yeah,
spot.
We don't really have many dream spots for QBs this week. That's
my thought. Yeah.
I'm gonna go under. I like the under.
Yeah.
Okay.
Matt, what's your reason for going over? You just think that one guy's gonna go off?
Yeah. So part of it is I think it could be a spot where the Steelers attack a little more through the air. I think Ryan could have some positive regression in the touchdown department. The yardage has been there for him, but he hasn't really done anything in terms of touchdowns. I think it could be a spot where he does something against Detroit. And then
Simeon's probably up there too.
Well, of course. And then I think out of the trifecta of Brady, Rodgers, and Breeze, one of them has a chance just in any given week.
Yeah.
If it being a decent spot, Rodgers and Brady as big home favorites. I think there's a chance there that one of them could go over. So I think it's a sharp line. I understand the under. I wouldn't mind taking the over. And part of it, actually, Sean, here's a question. When you're setting this line, am I taking it against the rest of the field, or am I taking it just against you?
Same, right? I mean, when you take the over, I'm just
it's just against Sean. Yeah.
But this is a interesting week because no QB has a dream matchup, but all the QBs that aren't on the slate are guys like Goff, Hoyer, Flacco,
right,
Bortles,
right,
Prescott, Palmer. So we still have all the stud quarterbacks. No one's on a bye or anything.
Yeah.
So any one of these guys can go off, even though there's a bunch of not ideal matchups. So I think it's going to be close to 31.5. So that's why I threw it out there.
Yeah, I like that. That's an excellent prop.
We need to have Sean, like, even when he's not on the pod, just send us props that we can talk about. Any last one that you guys want to get in, Pete? I don't know if you
No, I was just going to say thanks so much, Sean. Sean's the prop guy, helped inspire this, and didn't disappoint with some great stuff.
Yeah, amazing.
Cool. All right, well, we're going to end it there. Thank you guys for listening or watching. As always, good luck in week 3, and thanks to Sean for sure for coming on. The pod will have him back soon. You can follow him on Twitter at @the_oddsmaker. Sean, appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Cool. All right. Good luck, everyone, week 3, and we'll talk to you guys next week.